Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. We are back again with Shadowrun Dragonfall. Quick note before we get into the review. I have not played Shadowrun Returns. I was completely unaware of this trilogy of games until multiple subscribers who watch my live streams started hounding me about playing it. They were equally emphatic that Shadowrun Returns wouldn't be worth my time, and instead I should just jump straight into Dragonfall. Therefore, in this review, I won't be able to compare this game with the first one in the trilogy, but again, from my understanding, there's no real loss there. With that out the way, let's get into the review, starting with what I liked. The world building in this game is fantastic. Shadowrun combines cyberpunk, urban fantasy, and fantasy elements all together. This means the game has elves, orcs, and magic, while at the same time having cybernetic implants, combat drones, and a real-world setting. That probably sounds like too much going on at one time, and in the hands of a less skilled developer, this mix would be corny. Instead, Harebrained Schemes does a fantastic job of balancing all the different elements seamlessly. Part of the reason for this is Dragonfall has a fantastic introduction. Many games of this type make the mistake of dumping a huge load of unnecessary information right up front that only serves to confuse the player and damage the overall experience. This game immediately starts with a job infiltrating an old mansion. Very little information is provided about why you are there, and after each team member has a small introduction, you dive right in. That mission goes horribly wrong, and your team quickly realizes they were set up. Even more concerning, you find out that the manor actually houses an ancient dragon that once attempted to burn down all of Berlin. The creature was thought dead, but somehow it has survived, and now it wants to wipe out you and your team to keep its existence a secret. That's a fantastic setup and a strong pull for you to continue through the main story. As you progress in the game, you'll also learn a great deal of information about the world's lore and history. The game is set in Berlin, the capital of Germany. I have never played a game based in Germany that wasn't about Germans being evil people that Americans needed to fight and overcome. That alone makes this game unique, but on top of this, you play as a part of the Free State of Berlin, which basically means all of your friends and everybody in your hub city are anarchists. The game is not set in the present, so you don't deal with political ramifications that mirror a real-world setting, but it's still very different from what I've experienced in most games, and the dialogues you engage in regarding the Free State are absolutely fascinating. Despite the layers of complexity in the setting and overall story, it was very easy for me to follow everything that was happening, even though I have no familiarity with the Shadowrun tabletop game. Another aspect of the experience I really enjoyed is character creation. At first, this part is uninspired, since you get the standard list of humans, elves, dwarves, and orcs. They all come with unique bonuses, but honestly, just about every fantasy game has these races, so they are boring to me. Far more interesting is the last option on the list, trolls. I've never played a game that allowed me to be a troll, and the description says that trolls are discriminated against and assumed to be unintelligent. That made me even more excited to pick them in the hopes that there would be bigoted reactivity in the game. My character didn't experience the bigotry described, but there is reactivity towards the injustice other trolls and orcs are experiencing, and I thoroughly enjoyed my Grendel troll playthrough. Once you have selected a race, you can then select an archetype. Your archetype just sets you up with an initial distribution of points in your skills that let you know what you should focus on. It doesn't prevent you from going in a completely different direction, so a mage can decide to focus on melee combat and never use spells. The only exception to this I will point out is Decker, which is a futuristic hacker. If you're going with that playstyle, I would highly recommend you choose that archetype because they'll start with a beginner's cyber deck, which is expensive and a requirement for any decker. Once you have chosen your archetype, you can select a portrait, and believe it or not, this is also an area the game really shines. First off, there's a massive amount of portrait options available in character creation. The developers took the time to ensure every race and gender option had several portraits for you to choose from, and the art is fantastic. Many portraits make small changes, like adding tattoos or glasses to give the image more flavor. In the game world, several of the NPCs you meet have multiple portraits to represent different stages stages in their life. Those of you who played Obsidian's Tyranny might call back to their portraits, which show characters shrugging or in a thinking pose to represent their different thought patterns. This is different and done in a much more impactful way. Sometimes the portrait change happens to a character mid-conversation, making a big moment even more jarring. Once you have selected your portrait, it's time to distribute karma or skill points into your attributes and skills. In this game, your attributes are body, quickness, strength, intelligence, willpower, and charisma. Body determines how much physical damage you can take and how many hit points you have. Body is also the only attribute that doesn't have any skills related to it. All characters will need to put at least some points into body. Quickness determines your accuracy with ranged weapons and increases your ability to avoid physical attacks. There's also a couple of fights in the game where you can get the jump on your opponents if you can pass a quickness check. Skills related to your effectiveness with ranged combat, pistols, SMGs, shotguns, rifles, and dodging physical attacks all fall under this attribute. That means your maximum score in quickness determines the maximum score you can have in any of those skills. Your race determines the maximum score you can have in each attribute. For example, I played as a troll decker, so I focused on the intelligence attribute, which has a max score of 9. Unfortunately, trolls are limited to a max score of 6 in intelligence, so even though intelligence was my most important attribute, I couldn't max it out, and consequently, I couldn't max out its associated skills either. Despite this, I had a great playthrough and still was able to make a very competent decker. So the progression system is wide open and lets you dabble in whatever you see fit, but depending on your race, there are limitations that will require you to make some difficult decisions. The strength attribute determines your melee and thrown weapon accuracy. There are also a few checks in the game for destroying weak walls and things of that nature that require you or a party member to have a certain strength score. Skills related to your effectiveness in close combat, melee weapons, thrown weapons, and unarmed combat all fall under this attribute. Unarmed combat is actually very effective in Dragonfall, so all of these are legitimate options. The charisma attribute determines your ability to conjure spirits and unlock etiquettes. Etiquettes are one of several different ways to persuade NPCs in dialogue. Sometimes you can use your skill ranking, such as a fellow decker being impressed with your decker skill. You also sometimes have options based on your charisma score. Most opportunities are unlocked using the correct etiquette, and there are 7 of them in the game. You gain a new etiquette every 2 charisma levels. I could be wrong, but it felt like security, gang, corporate, and academic came up most often. Playing as a troll, I was limited to only 6 charisma and chose security, corporate, and gang as my etiquettes. I definitely missed some persuasion opportunities, but overall I don't regret my choices. Skills related to your effectiveness in spirit summoning, spirit control, and conjuring all fall under this attribute. In my experience, summoning is mediocre in this game, and I don't recommend playing as a conjuring character. The damage your summons do doesn't scale well, and each turn there's a possibility that your summon will either return to its realm or literally turn against you. Despite that, it's definitely worth investing heavily into charisma since the game provides tons of persuasion opportunities. Intelligence increases your accuracy with computer programs and combat drones while reducing the chance that you will be hit while in the Matrix. While playing in the game, there will be lots of opportunities to hack into a system by going into the Matrix. While in the Matrix, you can be attacked by other computer programs and you will be armed with your own programs to battle against them. There are many encounters in the game where the rest of the team is fighting in the real world while a decker is battling in the Matrix to accomplish a specific task. No one will be with you for healing or buffing, so it's critical that you are resilient all by yourself. This is why upgrading the cyber deck is so important, as it will increase the amount of computer programs at your disposal along with your overall effectiveness in the Matrix. Skills related to your effectiveness in biotech, ESP control, decking, drone combat, and drone control all fall under this attribute. Biotech increases the hit points you receive from medkits, and ESPs are special programs you can deploy in the Matrix. Combat drones are essentially weapons you can equip and deploy. Drones are treated as additional party members, so they have their own AP, movement, attacks, and inventory, although they can only be used in combat. Some drones come with medkits or grenades automatically in their inventory. The problem is that drones get their AP from their handler, so if your character usually has 2 action points each turn, and then you deploy your drone, now you only have 1 action point each turn. I played as a troll decker who had 2 combat combat drones and would deploy them in combat with the understanding that my actual character would not be able to move or do anything while my drones acted on my behalf. That was fun for a while, but the problem is many of the encounters have layers of complexity that require all the party to be able to move. Consequently, I was forced many times to sacrifice my character's effectiveness in combat just so he could move with the group. In hindsight, I think picking a more standard method of attack, such as using a sniper rifle, would have been a superior choice. Willpower increases your accuracy with spells and your ability to dodge magical attacks. There are a ton of spellcasters in the game. They hit like trucks, and many of them have area of effect spells like Fireball, so while I did not put any points into willpower, it most certainly is not a bad investment. Skills related to your effectiveness in spellcasting and chi casting fall under this attribute. Chi casting increases your ability to use spells that are for a physical adept, which is a character who focuses on buffs that enhance their close combat abilities. That breakdown should make it absolutely clear that there are a ton of ways to play this game. Luckily, the game also provides many different ways to resolve the hurdles you face. Brute strength, decking, persuasion, or some usage of skill points are all potential options to accomplish your task. I love that a lot of quests in this game revolve around infiltration and figuring out how to get what you want with a minimum amount of fuss. You literally never know what type of situation you are walking into and what type of skills will be needed to make the journey as smooth as possible. Party members are also a really strong area of this game. By your third mission, you'll have all 4 of them, and each is distinctive in really cool ways. Blitz is a human decker and supposedly is extraordinary in that role, but oftentimes he just makes a mess of things. I didn't care for him, but it was in a guy I love to hate kind of way. You cannot change party members' gear or armor, but as they level up, you can choose one of 2 upgrades. Blitz gets 4 of these upgrades while everyone else gets 5. His levels are basically a choice between upgrading his cybernetics for small bonuses or increasing his decking ability. I chose the decking options as either way he was going to be a drag in combat, so might as well ensure he could do that one task well. Regardless, I played as a decker, so Blitz was permanently attached to the bench. Dietrich is a human shaman. He starts the game with throwing blades, but I would recommend you ignore them after the first couple of missions. As I mentioned before, summoning is weak in this game, but shamans make great buff bots, and Dietrich is no exception. He can cast haste and aim on the deadliest member of your team to make them even more effective. He also gets a couple of nice spells that sets enemies up for damage or remove some of their AP. He has an empty ability slot, so later in the game you can buy an additional version of haste or some other spell to increase his versatility. Dietrich is the oldest member of your group and gives the vibe of a warrior who has seen it all and done it all. His personal quests are solid and give you more insight into his character. Overall, he was a mainstay on my team and someone I enjoy conversing with. Eager is a troll weapon specialist. She can use shotguns, sniper rifles, or regular rifles. She by far had the most kills on my team. Every battle started with Dietrich casting haste and aim on Eager, and then she would absolutely unload on some poor slob. I haven't figured out my Hong Kong build yet, but it's definitely going to involve either sniper or assault rifles. Most of her upgrades let you choose between specializing in shotguns or sniper rifles. Since she was so key for my group, I prefer keeping her out of harm's way and chose to focus on sniping. I was definitely happy with the choice, but the shotgun's ability to target multiple people is probably pretty strong as well, so I don't necessarily choose one over the other. She strongly dislikes you at first, but depending on your choices in dialogue, she might slowly warm up to you. This process was fantastic to watch, and I really enjoyed peeling back the layers of her personality. Her main quest was also fantastic, and the reward had a major impact on her playstyle. Great stuff all around. Eager is a fantastic character. Last on the list is Glory, and honestly I think she is the real star of the bunch. Glory is a human street samurai and a medic. She's covered from head to toe in horribly outdated cybernetics that completely destroy her ability to use magic. She is also cold in an almost mechanical way that sometimes makes it disturbing to talk with her. Over time you can learn why she is that way and the reasons behind the cybernetics implanted into her body. Those conversations are absolutely fantastic, and the quest where it all wraps up is well worth the wait. Her upgrades allow you to focus on claws or pistols. Surprisingly enough, Unarmed combat with claws is absolutely the way to go. Glory is very resilient, and as a medic, she automatically gets medkits in her inventory at the start of every quest. This makes it significantly easier to have her rush out into the chaos and deal with enemies directly. That's critical for your team because cover plays a big part in how easy an enemy is to hit. If they are able to crouch down behind cover, then your attacks will have a lower percentage. Enemies that have been successfully engaged in melee combat pop up from cover and are much easier to pick off from a distance. In addition, Glory gets melee abilities that strip armor from enemies, which increases the damage your other characters could do against them. She ran around like a mad woman, clawing into enemies to either tear them apart or set them up to be another line of white chalk on Inger's armor. It was absolutely glorious to behold, and I would love to see her in another game. I think it's worth noting that you get all but one party member up front, and the last party member is provided on the very next mission. I absolutely love this. So many developers make the mistake of giving you party members when the game is halfway or almost completely over. Those characters are consistently left on the bench and feel like a wasted opportunity. Shadowrun completely sidesteps that issue and is undoubtedly better for it. No one is more surprised than me by the final thing I really liked about this game. There are no romances. I know. For those of you who have watched my other reviews, you are well aware I love romances in my games and pretty much feel like they should be a part of every RPG. This is the first time I have played a game that didn't have a romance where I felt like it actually made sense and added to the experience. Dragonfall puts your characters in an extremely dire situation, and it feels like the entire affair occurs in the span of a couple of weeks. There's barely any time for leisure, and certainly not for love. I think that the game's relatively short runtime of around 35 hours helps to hammer that home. It felt like enough time for all of us to be friends, and yet not quite something more. I think if romances had been pushed into the game, it would have taken away from the seriousness of the situation and weakened the experience. Still, there are some characters that I would definitely like to experience a romance with. Yet another reason I would love to see Glory in a sequel. There are some aspects of the game that I am neutral on. There is no voice acting whatsoever in a game that has a ton of dialogue. This doesn't bother me at all, but I know for a lot of players it's a death knell that would prevent them from enjoying Dragonfall. Outside of the first two quests, it's critical to have a decker with you on every mission. There are several quests in the game that provide better rewards, are significantly easier, or flat out cannot be completed unless you have a decker. Decker is also the skill most often checked in dialogue. The party member who can perform decker abilities for you is annoying by design in a way that is entertaining, but will also make most people want to leave them on the bench. That puts many players in the unfortunate situation of having to play as a decker just for their sanity. On the one hand, I feel this isn't an issue because harebrained schemes clearly put a ton of effort into your matrix sequences, and decking is roped very tightly into the game. On the other hand, Shadowrun is clearly about player choice and running with any playstyle you want, so I think it's unfortunate that such a heavy emphasis was placed on being a decker to the exclusion of all the other archetypes. I wanted a little bit more from the endings. On the one hand, they are really cool and distinctive. They don't take into account all the decisions you have made throughout the game, but some critical ones are considered, so the endings are not cookie cutter. My problem is I have grown used to epilogue screens from games such as Dragon Age, Pathfinder, Fallout New Vegas, and the like, which showed you the ramifications of decisions you have made throughout the game. Dragonfall just gives you a couple of paragraphs regarding the main quest, and the game closes to credits. Again, the endings are cool, so it's not a complete letdown, but I was left wanting more. I will put the stability of the game in the neutral section as well. On the one hand, there were no crashes or freezing while I was playing the game. There also weren't any game halting bugs, which I really appreciated. That being said, there were other non-game halting issues that came up repeatedly. Anytime I attempted to quick load, the game lost its resolution, forcing me to go into settings and change it back. Also, for some reason, the game hates when you use Alt-Tab to look at other things on your computer. Multiple times, I Alt-Tabbed to a browser and then attempted to bounce back into the game, only to find that it had locked up and I had to manually close it from the task manager. There were also several instances during combat where the game wouldn't allow my character to move or select abilities. In these instances, pressing escape to bring up the options menu and then closing that out usually cleared the problem. A couple of times this fix also caused the game to skip my turn even if I have action points that was left unused. Overall, these issues were only annoying and I considered the game to be stable. The next point might be a nitpick, but honestly, I don't like that there are no maps in the game. Sometimes you don't miss something until it's gone, and I didn't realize how much I love pulling up a level map and seeing how much of an area I have already cleared. I am putting this in the neutral section because the levels in this game aren't huge, so I understand why maps are not included, but there were several instances where I really wanted one and there was no ability to pull one up. The last thing I am neutral on is how limited money is within the game. I played every quest, took every decking opportunity, and squeezed all the money I could out of every situation. There was still virtually never a time in the game where I felt like I was swimming in cash. The problem with this is no matter what build you have chosen, money is crucial to progression. For the most part, you don't find things like armor, guns, drones, or spells out in the wild. You have to buy them from a particular vendor. If you want to restock on med kits, grenades, or repair kits, or install cybernetics, that will also cost money. So even though there are a ton of build options and you get enough karma points to become a jack of all trades, it's actually really important that you specialize in one or at most two areas. Because even if you have the points for attributes and skills required in a particular archetype, if you don't have the money to purchase the gear that playstyle requires, then it doesn't matter. This is especially true for deckers who have to spend an exorbitant amount of money on cyberdecks and computer programs. On the one hand, I understand the need to create a limitation outside of race that ensures players cannot just do everything. On the other hand, I think this system is a little too constricting, especially for a game that revolves around player choice. Quick note before we get into what I didn't like about the game. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate you subscribing and hitting the like button. This information tells me which content the community is enjoying and helps my videos spread to more people. I really appreciate all of the support. The first thing I don't like about this game is there's not really a villain, and I think that harms the main story. You learn a lot about the dragon throughout the game, but almost never talk to her. Also, a large part of the game is spent trying to figure out how she is doing what she is doing, so it's not even clear that she's the real villain. There are other characters who present as villainous, but there's no central figure that you converse with as the story progresses who would be considered an adversary. I love solving mysteries, but I think the game will be served by having someone step into this role and provide at least some level of certainty about who you are facing. I also dislike that there are no party formations in this game. That means outside of combat, you are always controlling your character, and that individual is always leading the party. This also means when combat starts, your character is always in front, and your party is always bunched together. Sometimes enemies get the first turn, and they have no qualms whatsoever about lobbing grenades in the middle of your tightly packed group, even though you have no way around this situation. As someone who loves playing around with formations and making sure my allies are positioned for maximum effectiveness, I found this system very irritating. It's most especially a problem when you have a squishy build like my decker who basically never wanted to get hit. Finally, I hate the item management system in this game. All of the party members come with standard items they take into every quest. These items cannot be switched out, even if you have better equipment available for them in storage. While out in the world, if you come across useful items like med kits or grenades, they can only be placed in your character's inventory, and that has a limited amount of slots. If you are full, then it must be sent back into storage. The game provides no explanation for how this gear is getting to your storage if you do not pick it up yourself. What room other party members have in their inventories is irrelevant. When purchasing items for a vendor, there is no way to see the stats of your party members. Therefore, if you want to, for example, buy your shaman a new spell, you cannot see if his stats are actually high enough to use the spell you would like to equip on him. This system is cumbersome and choppy in a way that doesn't seem to be necessary. Outside of those issues, I had a fantastic time with Shadowrun Dragonfall, and I am jumping straight into its sequel, Shadowrun Hong Kong. Hope all of you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a like, share this content, subscribe to the channel, and become a member if you haven't already. I will see you all in the next video. Take care.